I think you just have to approach him just as a human being, in the sense that nobody wakes up in the morning and shaves or brushes their teeth and looks in the mirror and thinks, I'm evil, or I'm going to do something evil today. I think within the context of his business, there was not only was the violence just a part of the job, let's say, but it was also kind of a language that the people that he associated with and the people that he was, he opposed, were, understood the same language. It was a language, And was there another part to that, or am I lost? I didn't slur.
No, I think that... Scott, do you want to add something? Because you're such a great director of actors, and what made you think that Johnny, could do this role, which is unusual in respect of the rest of his career?
Well, I just want to say that because I've come to know Johnny over the years, socially and personally, Johnny is one of the most soulful and kind-hearted and gentle humans that I know. So to see him then transform into a man who was at times diabolical and ultimately sociopathic was a transformation that I had really never seen from an actor. And the truth is, I think Johnny is an actor who takes risks that most movie stars would never take. And I think that always fuels him, and which is what makes him such a great artist. And as a man whom I consider a national treasure, it was a real honor to direct him in this film.
Thank you very much. Florian Weiss, German television. Hi, question to Johnny. We're just waiting outside. There were a few thousand fans waiting there, I think, since 6 o'clock in the morning. I think this is a massive welcome to you and your crew from this movie. Anything you want to say about it?
To me, I don't understand how this works. Sorry. To me, the people who were waiting outside, who were dedicated and nice enough and kind enough to wait for such a long time, just to say hello and welcome you to Italy while you're supporting a film. Those people outside, I've never liked the term fans, I just, I don't know, it just doesn't work for me. But I consider those people essentially our employers, they're the boss, because they're the ones who go to the cinemas, they're the ones who spend their money, their hard-earned money, to go and escape for 2 hours or whatever, to watch a film. So, yeah, it's a very warm feeling always. It's a very, it's always very touching to receive that kind of a welcome. So yeah, I thank my bosses outside. You're the boss. Okay, cool.
Question for Johnny and Joel and Dakota as well. John Bleasdale, Cineview, England. This is the second time you've played a real-life criminal after Dillinger. Is your approach to playing a character who's alive, who's true life, different to your other more fictional creation performances? And the same question to Joel and Dakota. Thank you.
Oh, hi. I just think there's a certain amount of respect and reverence you have to give when you're playing a character who is a person that really exists, particularly someone in modern history who's still alive and in my case is still sitting in federal prison. Not to presume that you are that you know everything, that you know every angle of the story, that the film that we're telling is a particular point of view. it's amazing when you go to South Boston and you say, all right, we're declaring that we're going to tell the story of what happened with Jim Bolger and all the various kind of players in that story, that everybody has everybody has a story, everybody has a point of view, and to say that we're telling the true story is a little naive and a little presumptuous. So I think as much as we need to have a certain reverence and respect for those true players and our take on those true players, at the same time, you know, the fear of the repercussions of getting it wrong or painting a character in the wrong light, someone need to separate yourself and say, as much as this is a true story, this is our fictional version of a true story, and that helps alleviate all the pressure, I think.
I agree with that. Also, this is the first actual real woman I've ever, the first character that is an actual existing person that I've ever played. So there is an amount of information that is available to you to mold the character, and also if you're lucky enough to have physical footage, you can, you know, study mannerisms and things like that. So that's a bit different than, you know, creating something out of thin air. But basically what Joel said.
For me, I've played a few characters who were, you know, actual living beings, some dead living human beings. Hi, Yuki. How are you? And I've always found, I mean, at least for me, I you know, like these guys were saying, there's a tremendous amount of responsibility, because they, no matter if they're deemed good or bad, it doesn't really come into consideration. It's more the responsibility to be as true to that person as you can. And Dillinger, for example, was, to me, you know, people have varying opinions, but to me, John Dillinger was almost like a, you know, a Robin Hood. He was. I spoke to his last living relative, his sister, and she said he was the sweetest, funniest guy in the world, and I absolutely thought so. James Bolger, approaching that, you know, there's not an enormous amount of, there's not really a lot of, there's some footage, FBI surveillance stuff. There's a couple of tapes that you can hear him speak, but it was really kind of just shooting from the hip with Bolger, and also being true to the you know, the different sides of the guy, because there was one side of him was, as I said, this businessman who, within the language of that business, did what he had to do. And there was another side of him who was a loving family man. There was another side of him who was very dedicated to his mother and his brother, and, you know, so there was, he's a very complicated man, you know, and yeah, I guess when you're digging into a person like that, you owe them first to do them some sort of justice, even though along the way, you know, there are some ugly moments. Yeah, but I think that you know, I asked to meet James Bolger through his attorney, Jay Carney, and as expected, I mean, I knew this wouldn't happen. Bolger kind of respectfully declined because I don't believe he was a great fan of the book Black Mask. I also don't believe he was a great fan of any of the books written about him, so therefore he declined. But Jay Carney was very helpful to me in finding James Bulger, because, I mean, he hit me straight up. First and foremost, he said, I ain't gonna say nothing that Jimmy wouldn't want me to say. I will say this and I will say this, but I won't say anything over here, which fair play, I respected. But Jay came to the set a couple of times and watched, and he was very, he gave me a lot of confidence, because he said he could feel his old friend in what I was doing, which was, a very high compliment. Scott Cooper.
Yes, hi. Question for Joel. It's over here. Hi, Ed Gibbs from the Sydney Morning Herald. Congratulations, hello again, on your performance. I just wanted to ask you how the underworlds of Boston and Melbourne compare. Are there any similarities, or are they radically different?
I think they're kind of similar. Bad people doing bad things well.
Snakes, spiders.
There's a definite thread of Irish. I think the real culprits are the Irish, I think, right?
Jellyfish.
They came down in jellyfish. Johnny and I were talking about all the animals that will kill you in Australia, worse than any of the underworld figures, and much smaller. Look, gangster movies. I got to just talk about gangster movies for a second, because it's a great way of sort of standing on a little stool and looking through a window at bad people doing bad things in a way that's really safe to watch, and that's why I suspect I like watching gangster movies. Australia has a real love of criminals, maybe because the modern version of Australia, anyway, after we were colonised, after the British came and took Australia over and presumed to be a new country, just dumped a whole lot of petty criminals from the UK. The really good criminals were killed. I mean, the proper criminals were killed. Anybody who stole a sheep or a silver fork was sent to Australia. So they weren't even really that good a criminal. But I think we have an affinity for criminals because of that. I think the world in general likes to watch people do bad things in the cinema. And I'm just really privileged to be a part of another gangster movie. Animal Kingdom was one, but this is a very special outing for me and for us, I think.
Perhaps Scott can add something to this specific. One of the fascinating thing of the Whitey Bulger story is the fact that these blood ties with the politics, political power, as well as with the law out of friendship, childhood friendships. Can you, Scott, perhaps address, and any one of the actors that want to come in, on the complexity of this particular character because of these relations?
Indeed, what really fascinated me about this story, many things, it's very dense and complex, was the fact that in South Boston, in the 1970s and 80s, certain lawmen and certain criminals were virtually indistinguishable. And you have an intersection of politics and crime that still continues today, and whether it's in America or whether it's in other countries around the world. I think it's something that's fascinating and compelling and makes for compelling cinema. But I just wanted to quickly add to what these gentlemen said about playing real-life characters, because on 2 occasions on the set, which I found to be remarkable, Whitey Bulger's longtime attorney came to visit Jay Carney, and after we finished a scene, I saw him shaking his head, and I walked over to him and I said, did we not get something right? And he said, no. He said, I have known this man forever, and to see Johnny Depp portray him the way that he does, he said it's uncanny and it's chilling. And conversely, Fred Weishak, whom Corey Stoll plays in the film, came to visit one day, and watching Corey play himself, and he thought Corey was amazing. He said, but who's that man playing John Connolly? And I said, that's Joel Edgerton. He said, is he from Boston? I said, no, he's from Australia. He said, Scott, it's remarkable to see the mannerisms and the articulation and the accent. And he said, I just can't believe this. So once I had a conversation with both of those gentlemen, I knew that we were on the right track.
There was a question here, and then Evan.
Valentina D'Amico, movieplayer.it. Parlo in italiano, quindi forse serve la cuffia. La mia domanda prosegue un po' quella che è stata fatta ora. Dopo il funerale della madre c'è il fratello di Jimmy che dice Jimmy è un bravo ragazzo. La madre, quando sono a casa tutti insieme, scherza sul fatto che era stato in prigione. Questo come avete lavorato? Ora non è qui Benedict Cumberbatch, però ero curiosa di sapere come avete lavorato su questo dualismo tra l'immagine pubblica di criminale e l'immagine che invece aveva la famiglia, che sembrava molto affettuosa e non sembra preoccuparsi particolarmente delle sue attività.
She said that the family, the relationship between his public criminal persona and the familiar dimension, and how the family itself doesn't seem to mind too much what he does for a living. Yeah, yes.
Well, I think that's just it. Like I was saying before, nobody, no matter how evil we would consider them, or that sort of thing, they never look at themselves as evil. They're on a quest, and they feel what they are doing is righteous, from the worst to the sort of clumsy. And there was some sort of I don't know. There's something poetic about what he was able to do in his work, and at the same time be of that very proud Irish immigrant stock who was loyal to his neighborhood, who was a great caregiver to his mother, very, very close with his brother, who was, I mean, a very upper echelon politician. There were a lot of things. I mean, even people he grew up with, or like Connolly. Connolly was a bit younger than Bulger, but I think most of the connection and most of the reason, the biggest part of the reason that Bulger became involved is because Connolly was a Southie boy, and that he was of the same stock, and it's not that it's easy. It's just that it's a challenge, and it's exhilarating when you can switch gears, when you can go from 90 to 20, and when you can go from 20 back up to 120. It's challenging, and it's just always, satisfying. I can't say it, because I think satisfaction is a bad thing to feel, because then you get lame. But he was complicated, and there was a part of him, as I said, that he would take in little old ladies' groceries into the house. I mean, and then 10 minutes later he might be bashing someone's skull in. But to him, that was what he knew. That was all he knew. So.
I'll add to that I was, while I was scouting in South Boston, I had seen a picture of a lady that I thought might be a good candidate to play Jimmy Bulger's mother. I often like to use non-actors in smaller parts, and I asked to meet her, and I did, and I asked her if she'd been in a film, and she said, no, I haven't. And I said, I'd love you to be in this movie. She said, well, I'm not an actress. And I said, well, that doesn't matter. And she said, is this really a film about Jimmy and Billy Bolger? I said, it is. She said, well, I have no interest whatsoever. I said, well, perhaps you should take some time and think about this. I said, and I'll come back in a couple of days and we'll discuss it. She said, Scott, I don't want to be in the film. Jimmy and Billy Bolger were very good to me, very good to this neighborhood, and I have no interest. Thank you.
Interesting.
You ready? Hi, Johnny. Johnny, over here, darling. Woohoo! Hi. Hi. Ah. How are you? Helen from Paris via Australia, or the other way around. In our early interviews in Gay Paris, you transmogrified in films like Edward Scissorhands, and you've been doing it ever since. Why do you do it? And how did you decide on the look here? And have you brought your dogs for a gondola ride in Venice?
Is it working? It does. What was the last part?
Bring your dogs to give them a gondola ride in Paris.
Please.
Oh,
I'm
come
not
on,
certain that
Ellen.
that's appropriate.
No, I killed my dogs and ate them under direct orders from some kind of, I don't know, sweaty, big-gutted man from Australia.
What was your question?
The first part of the question is why you want to transform yourself from film to film so radically.
For me, you know,
what is it that you like about that?
for me, even from the beginning, when I'd done a couple of films, but I never decided to be an actor. I'm not sure I ever decided to be an actor, to tell you the truth. But I didn't really care, you know, and then, because I was a musician. And then so after, when I got into the racket and it started going on and I was stuck in a TV series that was, you know, I mean, not to bite the hand that fed me, it put me on the map, so to speak, but it was very frustrating because you realize you end up saying someone else's words in the span of 1 year, then you end up saying your own, and especially when they're badly written words. So my heroes have always been, like, in terms of cinema, my heroes were John Barrymore and Lon Chaney Sr., and certainly Marlon Brando, Timothy Carey, John Garfield. I mean, all these guys who would, transform. And so I suppose it was just an obsession. I've always wanted to be a character actor, or try to be a character actor more than just the kind of, you know, I don't know, poster boy that they tried to make me when I was about 100 years ago. And most importantly, I think aside from what it does for me, I think that an actor has some degree of responsibility with regard to their audience, to change, to give them something different, to give them something new each time, to give them something that they're not expecting, to try to surprise them and not bore them by just being the same sort of thing every time, by essentially playing yourself. So I find great, safety, but at the same time danger in trying to do these transformations. So for me, it's very challenging, and I think that's important also as an actor, to test yourself, challenge yourself each time. Take the chance that you may actually fall flat on your face and look like a complete ass. And that's what I do for a living. What? Well, I mean, basically the look in this film was decided, Scott and I had, early discussions and I thought it was very, very important. We both thought it was very, very important to capture, to make, to look as much like Jimmy Bulger as humanly possible. My eyeballs are black as the ace of spades. And so clearly, like the blue contacts, and they were hand painted because they needed to be piercing. They needed to cut right through you. And then there's a makeup artist that I've worked with for many, many years who's an absolute genius. His name is Joel Harlow, and I think we did about 4 or 5 tests before we even showed Scott anything. So the goal is really to just capture the look of Jimmy Bulger, as exact as we could,
I'm truly sorry. I'm told that we are out of time, and I really want to thank our guest.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having us. Much appreciated. Hey.
We got a pen. We got a pen. We got a pen. We got a pen. Yeah, use this one. Guys, we got a pen. Okay, yeah, use this. Oh, beautiful. Guys, we got a pen. Okay, we got a pen. My wife.
Okay.